Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Caitlin Hughes and today we're going to be talking about 10 things that I learned in my first year of teaching that I would love to pass on to you guys. I tried really hard to kind of craft a list of 10 things that absolutely are essential or were essential to me, but you know, of course, I'm sure I missed a bunch. So if you think of anything or as I'm talking, if there's anything that jumps out to you, leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear, and I think it would be a really great place for all of us to kind of like get advice and learn. I think there are so many incredible teachers out there. I'd love for the comments to be a place where we can all learn and like get resources and share ideas and all that kind of stuff. And if you guys would like me to do a part 2, I'm more than happy to do that. So leave some suggestions. What were some essential tips or lessons that you learned in your first year or beyond? I'm super excited to hear from you guys. So without further ado, let's jump right on into it. To start off, tip number 1 is to ask all the questions. Literally anything that pops into your brain, ask it, because it's not only going to help you, but it could also help another teacher, especially if, you know, you're on a team that has multiple first year teachers. You know, you might think of something that somebody else needs but hasn't thought of yet or hasn't realized that they need yet. So it's always good to ask your questions. And these questions are everything from how to request a substitute or a sick day, or where to park your car, what parking lot to use. You know, every question that you have is something that will make you better. So it's always good to ask. Tip number 2 is finding your personal style. And this applies to everything. It applies to your style of behavior management, the style that you deliver content through, your personal style of the things that you wear that make you feel comfortable and confident and capable of doing your job. It just everything about it, the way you want to plan, the way you brainstorm lesson plans, everything. Find your own style. Because what works for me or what works for, you know, your mentor teacher might not work for you. And that doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It doesn't mean that you're not doing it right. Or there is no right way. It's just whatever works for you and what makes you the teacher that you want to be, the teacher that your kids deserve, and the best version of yourself. So it's so important to find your own way of doing things. That's one of the biggest things I learned. There is no right way. That's part of becoming the teacher that you want to be, is becoming a teacher who's confident in the way they do the things that they do. Because you have the skills. You've gone to college, you've probably gone to grad school, you have the essential knowledge. This is your opportunity to make it your own and to apply it in ways that work for you and work for your students. Tip number 3 is a difficult one. It's choosing your battles. Because this is a job that is fueled by so much emotion and care for our kids, inherently there are going to be things that happen that you just don't agree with. It could be a variety of things, but there are just going to be things that happen that you might not agree with or you wish were different. It's really important to remember that whatever conflict arises or that you're confronted with, just remember the ultimate goal. And at the base level, the ultimate goal is to make sure the kids are safe, they're supported, and that they're learning. So anything else, it's something that no one can really tell you, like, this is the time to step in, or this is the time to kind of take a step back. But it's something that you really will feel in your gut. And if you do it wrong, it's okay. As long as you're following your training, you'll know this is the time I need to step in and advocate for whatever it might be. And this is the time where things are okay. I can let this one go. If a certain student needs to sit outside in the hallway for a second and just take a moment for themselves, it's not the end of the world. You're not a bad teacher. Like, it's okay. You're gonna know how to navigate certain things. Just in your gut, you're gonna know how. And it's important to listen to that. There are just going to be times when you have to be forgiving of yourself and of the situation and choose your battles, and you'll get through it. Tip number 4 is get to know your community. And this means your whole community. Every single person has a key essential role in that ultimate goal that we talked about of making sure the kids are safe, supported, and learning. So it's so important that even if you're an introvert, I'm an extreme introvert, that you force yourself to go out and meet people and kind of get out of your kind of safe little classroom bubble. You want to be walking around, you want to be out in the hallways greeting people, you want to say hi to everyone that you see. It's so important, and it's so important to not overlook anybody. Nobody is more important or more essential than another person. It's really important to view it as a communal goal and that every single person in the school is contributing to that in their own unique way. Because every single person is a resource, whether it's the counselors or the custodial staff or the administrators or the parents and the crossing guards and everything. Everyone plays a role and has a unique perspective on the community. Everybody deserves to feel that community. Tip number 5 is to be patient with yourself. And I can't stress this one enough because there are going to be times when you make mistakes. This all goes into that following your gut that we talked about before. Sometimes your gut might not be right, or sometimes following your gut, the way that you go about it might not be what you would do a second time around. And that's okay. Every single mistake that you make is just you growing into the teacher that you are meant to be. As long as you're learning from these mistakes and you're reflecting on them and being better, they're just golden opportunities for you to grow. So not only does making mistakes help improve you as a teacher, it also helps you build empathy for the next batch of first-year teachers that are going to be coming in and making all the same mistakes that you did. It only helps you. As long as you're forgiving yourself, reflecting, and moving on, it's gonna be fine. There are so many mistakes that I've made over the course of my first year teaching, and I think every single teacher can say the same. It's part of life. It's part of the process, and you will get through it. You won't even remember them, or if you do, they'll just be things to laugh about. Make sure that you're giving yourself the grace and the forgiveness and the patience that you give your students each day. So tip number 6 is probably my favorite, and if I had to say, it's probably the most important thing to remember. Tip number 6 is that we are not just teaching content. Truly, we are teaching so much more. So I'm an English teacher, I teach high school English, but so much of my job and so much of my day was talking to students about things that are going on in their lives, things that are going on in the world. The 2020-2021 school year was a huge year for just trying to make sense of the world for these kids, for everybody, but for these kids. And to be expected to go through the motions of a version of school that's not familiar to you, it was hard for them, and they have a lot of questions. So the kids are hopefully going to be interested in your content, but they're going to be going through so many different things in their lives that they need the space and the opportunity to talk about and to make sense of. And it's so true that the kids are going to look to you to kind of help them navigate everything that they're going through. It's such a blessing and an honor to be invited into the community of whatever school that you're working at, but it's an even greater honor when a kid opens up to you and feels safe enough with you that they can share these bits of their personal life and look to you for help. That's not something that will ever kind of lose value to me. I think it's something that I am so grateful for. And that is my why. That's my reason that I do what I do, especially in this day and age when so much is being put onto public schools and teachers specifically to communicate and to help students navigate through of different aspects of life, personal life, relationships, empathy, all kinds of emotional regulation, all that kind of stuff. We are really kind of essential in helping them figure that out and learn about those things. But one of the things that I've learned, especially in this past year, is that when there is something insane going on in the community or something horrific that happens in the world, whether it's the global pandemic or a mass shooting or a march for justice, whatever it might be, whether it's global or specific to your community, it's so important to take a moment and take some time out of your class period to help them work through that mentally, emotionally, just logically, everything about it, because I think it's incredibly unfair to expect kids to be going through something like that and confused about something like that and say, nope, I just don't think that's fair. And I think that it builds stronger community when you give the kids the opportunity to talk about things that are important to them and that they care about. I think it also invites them to share more than they ever really have the opportunity to do. I think it gives us an insight into what they care about and what they're reading and where they're getting their news. Everything about that is so important that even if you have a really important lesson that you've worked all weekend on and really are excited to share with them, if something happens, it's so much more valuable to carve out a chunk of the beginning of class, talk about it, get it all out in the open, and then say, okay, I'm really proud of you guys for sharing so much and reflecting so much on this. We're gonna close it out for now. We've got things to get to, and then if we have time, we can talk about it at the end of class again. So that way they have the opportunity to get it out and, release everything that they're thinking about, and then focus on what you want them to focus on. And if you have time at the end, they can stay after or chat with you, whatever it might be. It's important to give them the opportunity to talk and reflect and think deeply and critically about what's going on in the world. That's an essential piece of the profile of a learner. It's an important skill, and it's important for them to have the opportunity to do. Tip number 7 is to remember your why. Our whys could look different from person to person, teacher to teacher, but I think a lot of them have the common thread of, that we love kids, that we want to work with them, and we want to help them grow and succeed, and all that good stuff. I think that it's super important to love the kids more than you love the content. I love English. I'm so passionate about it, but I'm choosing to not be a writer or a journalist or anything like that because I want to work with kids. My why is all about helping kids develop empathy and make sense of their world through art and literature and poetry and all these kinds of things, so that they can have healthier, more meaningful lives. For me, when I was struggling this past year, it was so important to me to remember, this is why you're doing what you're doing. This is why you chose to go to school and to get a second degree and all that kind of stuff, to do this, to be where you are right now. And yes, it's hard right now, but you are ready for this. And there's a reason that you're here. So I think it's so important to have something that grounds yourself in what you're doing, because otherwise, what's keeping you there? Teaching is an unbelievably challenging career path, and it's not cut out for everybody. I think anybody that teaches will say that. It's not something that just anybody can do. And I think that, if it's not for you, it's not for you, and there's no shame in that. But I do believe that if it is for you, there will still be times that test you. It's not a career path that people put a lot of value into, sadly. I mean, just the American educational system is not fully funded. There's so much that just isn't respected about it, wrongly so. So it's even more important that you have it in yourself of why you're there and why you're making a difference. And so having your why and being fully grounded in that and having something to remind yourself of what's keeping you there and why this work is important will serve you very well in the long run. Tip number 8 is to remember that you will get there. You will. I promise you will. You will be fine. You are going to make it to a place where you feel confident and secure in what you're doing. For me, the first month or so was very heavily influenced by my imposter syndrome. I felt like, I'm a kid, what am I doing? I have no idea. I'm supposed to be the adult, and these kids are looking up to me and just expect me to know things. And then I was shocked by how quickly it crept up on me that, oh, I do know these things, and I am capable of this, and I am the adult in the room, and I do know what I'm doing. You have so much knowledge that's been given to you by university and student teaching and practicum and all that kind of stuff, and it's in you. And you're going to take some time to get your footing, and that's fine, that's essential, but it will happen. That kind of switch will happen for you, I promise. And when it does, it's like one of the best feelings, because when it does, it's like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be, and I know it, and I'm proving it every day. It's awesome. It's one of the best feelings. So have faith in yourself, be patient, you will get there. Tip number 9 is to start each day fresh. And what I mean by this is, don't hold grudges. Just don't. Please, please, please don't hold grudges, because your kids don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. It's not going to be helpful for anybody. Most kids are going through so much more than we'll ever know. It's so essential to be able to provide them with an environment that's safe and secure and supportive and loving and forgiving and everything that they deserve it to be. You don't want to be that teacher that holds grudges and is resentful of 15-year-old kids. They are kids. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to be frustrating sometimes, and they're going to make decisions that are just like baffling to you sometimes. What's important is that you kind of live each day fresh and with a sense of humor, because otherwise it's like, How could you get through? I just don't know. I just don't. So, you deserve it and your kids deserve it. You can only control what you do, right? So you want to be the teacher that will always be there for them. And last but not least, tip number 10 is that your identity is not confined to the classroom. It's just not. You are so much more and you deserve so much more. Teaching is a career path that takes so much out of you. After this year, I found that for me, it's so much healthier to feel like I have an identity and a purpose outside of school as well. I think so much of our personal identity gets wrapped up into who we are as teachers, but we owe it to ourselves and our kids to take care of ourselves and to be able to recharge in a way that we're able to show up refreshed for our kids at school. People say it all the time, but it's so true that you can't take care of somebody else if you can't take care of yourself. So really, truly, we have to be taking care of ourselves as teachers because we have so many people that depend on us. We have hundreds of kids, hundreds of students every year that look to us for support. So how can we help them if we aren't helping ourselves? I think that's an important thing to look for in a school. Like, does your admin kind of understand that, and do they agree with that sentiment? Are you allowed, or are you allowing yourself to really take care of yourself for yourself and for your kids? That's what's going to help you come back to the classroom being your best and feeling your best. And that's what our kids deserve. Our kids deserve our best every day. And that's why it's so taxing. That's why it's so draining, because you're giving 110% every time you step foot into a school. Having a healthy relationship with work helps you to have a healthier relationship with yourself and all the other relationships in your life that are just as important. If you need to take a weekend to not grade or to close your laptop and just not think about school, take that weekend, because I promise you that when you come back, you're going to be exponentially better than where you were. You need that time to reset yourself and to refill your tank so that you can give all of that out, but you need to have something that is refilling you. When you're finding a school to work for, it's so important to kind of find a sense of that, how mental health is viewed at that school, because I think that's something that everybody experiences, and no one should ever feel guilty or shamed for needing to take some time to take care of themselves. If you're at a school or a job or anything that feels entitled to chip away at your mental health or your well-being in general, it's time to reassess, because we are experts in our field and we are experts in what we do and how we care for kids. And so if we're not afforded the same opportunities to care for ourselves and be cared for, then there's a disconnect and something needs to be done. So I definitely recommend finding things outside of school that give you purpose and value and joy. Because if you don't have that, then how can you be there for your kids? How can you be there for yourself? It's important to find ways to build these boundaries that keep you standing, keep you upright. It's tough, but you're gonna do great. Again, I thank you guys so much for listening and being here and being a part of this community. Drop your comments below. I'm super excited to see what your top tips would be for first year teachers or just teachers in general. I think we can all benefit from each other's expertise. So I'm excited to read your comments, and I'm wishing you guys all the best. Thank you so much again, and I love you lots. Bye.